We'll look at complete commercial paper draws. When we were last here, we had just issued $16 million in May. In August, we issued another 22 for the 38 we've projected for the year. And there's a description below of how we've allocated those funds. Unless there are any questions about that, I think I'll turn it over to Margaret, and you can talk about commercial paper program.
There are going to be a lot of questions.
Okay.
Can I start general one? Remind us how this commercial paper works again,
Sure.
particularly in light of the current economic environment.
Sure. A commercial paper program is a short-term liquidity program. We can draw money up to our authorized amount of $150 million to fund short-term draws, and then we're planning to take that out with a general obligation bond once we get up to sort of a critical mass size. Commercial paper cannot exceed 270 days in maturity, so they are very short-term, and the short-term end of the yield curve tends to be a lot lower in yield than we would pay on a long-term bond issue. And as Lottie mentioned, we've estimated that we're saving $1 million just by going this way this year over what we would have paid if we had issued a general obligation bond at the outset.
And Margaret, who is our financial partner in the market for these?
Our commercial paper dealer is Wachovia Bank. They also provide a letter of credit on the commercial paper to provide liquidity.
Okay. I saw Councilpersons Johnson and Wade.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is just to prime us for later, but I have a constituent who expressed an interest in having some of the GO bonds in small enough units that individuals can buy them, and I do think that's a wise thing.
I think we will see a mini bond program out of the Better Denver bond program in the future. We don't have one planned right now, but I would think within the next couple of years we will certainly do one. We did one in 2007. We had great demand. I think we'll give ourselves a year to get some more pent-up demand, and then we will be doing a Better Denver mini bond program.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Johnson. Councilman Boyd.
Thank you. I actually have a couple questions going back to the previous slide and on this one. But for this one, you've been in the market now in this very exciting time. And I just wondered if you're seeing any difference in the mini bonds, how they're both, the commercial paper, how it's accepted, what the rates are, those kinds of things. And then my other question, I know that you wanted to wait until next week to talk about why we're not at 50 million, but if you could give us some idea of, I'm looking at the range of departments here, it looks pretty good. What had we hoped to get funded in this year that we aren't able to get to?
You want to take that piece first, and I'll take the market side, or?
Well, actually, I cannot tell you because it's Lottie's analysis, so I can't. I'm not. I have not been able to compare with the projects you had for the 51 million versus the 38. So, Lottie, can you help at all?
I would have to go back and do an analysis. I can provide that at some later point in a few days. Many projects have shifted either forward or backwards, so it's not up to just 10 or something. There are quite a few changes, but I can certainly put that together.
Well, I'll tell you what the analysis that would be helpful to me is some geographic analysis, some department analysis, just so that we can see if there's any pattern that we ought to be thinking about.
Sure. Very good. And Lottie, is most of the deferring of projects based on timing, based on, is it just the time that the draw will be required? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
No, there's no financial reasons for delays. We're very nimble, I think, in terms of being able to generate commercial paper to fund.
So it's a scheduling issue primarily?
They're really scheduling issues and staffing issues, that kind of thing.
Good.
So,
okay.
Yeah.
And if I could ask, this is exactly what we're doing in the program. And it's separate from Lottie right now in terms of going over project by project, looking at the May schedule that we issued, how many months is it being delayed, what's the reason for the delays. I gave the example earlier of the City Park Greenhouse. It was a contracting problem, so that sets that one back. I don't know, Lottie, for instance, on the Museum of Nature and Science, where there's some draws before the end of the year, and it looks like maybe they aren't going to go quite as fast That might be another
Right.
example.
That's a good example. We had estimated we'd have $5 million in draws from them, and we haven't finalized the amount. It looks like it may be less than half that. So
Right.
they're just changes in people's plans, but I can do that analysis pretty easily.
So it's tied to the 200 and some odd days that you want this paper in the market. You don't want it had sitting there unused. Going too early. So Margaret, you want to try to answer the second part of the question?
And commercial paper, the limit is 270. We have not drawn that far. Our first draw was for 90 days, and we paid 1.75% annual rate. And then we rolled it and added a little bit more in August for another 60 days to mature in November, and we're paying 1.85%. So you can see these are very, very low rates that we're incurring. And as Lottie said, we have lots of flexibility. I just need to give the broker-dealer bank a couple of days' notice and give them the amount, and we can enter the market.
Councilwoman Futz?
Yeah, I'm not sure if this is something that you would want to do, Mr. Chairman, if it's something that I should be doing. But as we look at the fact when we get to the GO bond portion of it, then we're talking property taxes. And with the turmoil in the housing industry, we were told by our assessor that individual homes, for instance, especially when they're more isolated kind of incident that was distressed, was exempt from figuring into the loss for the total assessment. They did not use that to pull the average down for the average house value, so that when you apply the mill levy to it, I mean, you had not had a reduction because of a few. Now, when there are a whole lot, I would like to know at what point do you get to a critical mass where it's actually going to affect our assessed valuation, and what effect would that have on the mill levies that would have to be applied because of this bond issue? Will people be seeing that they'll be paying a higher mill than they expected because the values have gone down? Or could we just have an analysis
Sure.
of all that?
That sounds like a finance committee, but we would love to be listed as a committee of interest.
Okay, I just didn't know where we ought to be doing it, but I do think it's a discussion that we should have, because so many people have been told, well, when you just had the isolated instances, that they weren't figured in. Well, at some point, it's surely going to affect the assessed valuation as a whole.
We will follow up with you and come up with an agenda to bring to Finance Committee that would have that analysis for you, and we'll work with the assessors.
What is the typical lag behind those assessments? Is it a year?
Biennial.
18 months?
Biennial,
Biennial?
the assessment?
We won't be changing assessed
No.
value in the coming year.
No.
We just did it.
We just
So
did it.
we've got a year.
Right, okay. Councilman Rob, did I see your hand, or do you just want to make that point? Okay. Any other questions regarding this piece?
The only other information I would give you is that we're looking at probably issuing bonds sometime mid to late next year. We're looking to be at about $100 million level minimum.
Okay.
And hopefully that will give us time to work through some of the market turmoil that we're currently experiencing.
Good. So,
We do have flexibility, so we can use our commercial paper program.
So at the next meeting, we'll have an update on where we are compared to the initial schedule that was issued to update council members on projects to date. Are there any